George, but I don't have the exact details, and I don't know when it was, and I don't know if it was just the engineer that had too much to drink or I can't tell the story right, but that's what happened.
Okay.
And it may have happened more than one time, by the way.
The distillery thing.
The New Westminster Distillery, yes.
Can you imagine shipping liquor in boxcars?
Oh, yeah. It used to happen. Every now and then one of those things would get in a wreck and the whiskey would be leaking out the bottom of the... People would be catching it in basins and, just weird stuff. There was a famous wreck on the NP on the Buckley Bridge, the Buckley Trestle.
Yeah.
I don't remember if trains collided or the trestle partly collapsed. But anyway, this boxcar full of wine got crushed, and there was wine leaking out of this boxcar, and the whole damn town of Buckley turned out with every bowl and container they could find, and they were catching this wine and they took it home. There's a poem written about it.
A poem written about a derailment on a bridge with the wine?
Yeah, with the people gathering the wine up and taking it home.
Well, that does. When those things happen, there are scavengers out there.
These are things that you bring out when you start talking to me that I was totally unprepared to back up with any kind of documentation.
Well,
if you wanted to make a list of all this stuff and say, Dave, we'd like to come to your house and have you provide documentation on all of this, I could do it.
Oh, I know you could, but until we start talking and we start, kind of loosening up the throat strings, and you start, coming forth with this information, I wouldn't have known to have asked you about the distillery caper and New West. Was that in the BN era?
Oh, no, that was Great Northern.
Oh, that was Great Northern, okay.
Another I ran across, I did a Death Valley history on railroading, and on the Tonopah Tidewater Railroad, they had a superintendent by the name of Cahill, W.W. Cahill.
Okay.
And one time at Ludlow, California, the junction point with the Santa Fe and the little Tonopah Tidewater, a cask of whiskey got mishandled and cracked and was leaking. And the superintendent came into the baggage room and caught these employees catching the drippings. And as the story goes, he says, well, the shipment's a loss. Why are you screwing around with this? And he took a sledgehammer and busted the top open. And he says, now you can get, why wait? You can, we're going to have to pay for the shipment anyway. So you may as well get the good stuff. So there was a roadmaster by the name of W.W. Cahill.
Okay.
Working for Ed Burnson on the Lewis and Clark Railroad.
Oh, yeah.
And I mentioned this story to him. And he says, well, just a minute. Comes back about 3 or 4 days later, and he says, I did some checking in the family tree. And he says, that guy was a distant uncle. But he says, I knew the minute I heard the story about the cask of whiskey that the guy had to be a relative. He says, if it hadn't been for that, I might not have looked into it. But he says, yeah, he was my uncle's cousin or something like that.
Yeah, somewhere in the family tree.
Cahill, and then same initials,
same
WW.
initial. Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's like, wait a minute, you're repeating yourself.
The minute I heard the whiskey story, I knew it was worth looking into. And sure enough.
Well, we'll have to go back, as I look through these, as I review our time together in these various recordings, then I go, oh, well, we need to go back through and start making notes.
Cherry pick stuff to...
Cherry pick stuff, and then look at images that support the narrative. I know from our first episode, which was, I thought, quite good, start finding images that support the narrative of what we're talking about, and then we'll have Joshua
I'm not going to
integrate that stuff.
I'm not going to rifle through stuff right now, but I think within a short time I could probably produce some pictures of the exterior and interior, for example, of that outfit car that I lived in at Easton.
Well, that's exactly what I was thinking about, because that was an old boxcar with windows cut into it and a man door cut into where the boxcar door was, kind of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and relined on the inside with pine sheathing and painted over with ugly NP gray paint.
And it would be kind of like a wood sheathed boxcar then, I'm thinking.
And I think they'd put some insulation in it. I don't remember. Not very good insulation because it got pretty cold in there.
Well, I was going to say it's Easton, so it's always nice there all year round.
Mm-hmm.
And so back in the days when Easton used to get some snow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I exaggerated the story and made it sound like I was in bed and woke up and found this. That's not true at all. I came from somewhere else. I'd been home to Monroe or something, drove back over to Easton, opened the outfit car door, and of course the heat had been off. And here's the goddamn pipes frozen up, and the kitchen faucet in the kitchen actually had a drip coming out of it that had frozen. You know, and I think the pipes busted, and I had to replace a bunch of pipes. But anyway, I told the story and made it sound like I woke up and found it like that. And I remember the agent, Roger Quillen, when I told that story, he says, well, I've heard some bullshit in my life, but I never heard anything like that. And then I realized I should really tell the story truthfully rather than say that I woke up and found it.
Right. Yeah, it's a better story when it's...
entered from the outside after being gone and found everything frozen and a drip actually frozen in mid-drip. You know? That's possible. I mean, you can find that on an outside faucet a lot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
If they
No, I
freeze
get
up.
that. Yeah, it's better when we stick to the facts.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
Don't embellish it.
Yeah, I don't need to embellish it. Although Jack will say, at least I thought that's what happened. You know, he sort of adds a few things here and there.
Well, and it's an old saying, but it got used on me by L.T. Murray Jr., the guy that bankrolled Mount Rainier Scenic.
Yeah.
L.T. Murray, and he owned that Murray Pacific Corporation.
Right, Murray Pacific, yeah.
He was owner of that. He says to me, I told him this story that I had heard involving his dad, and I says, is that a true story? And he says, well, I don't think so, but he says, Dave, you never let the truth get in the way of a good story. He says, that's a hell of a good story.
Well, what is it, since you brought it up?
Well, it was told to me by my ex-father-in-law, who used to be the Milwaukee agent at Mineral.
Okay.
For the Milwaukee. And he said that there was this building in Mineral that had been basically the office building for L.T. Murray Sr.'s logging operation there, and had a shake roof on it. And after the logging operation shut down, Murray sold the building and left town or whatever, sold the building
right.
to somebody else. And he came back into town about 15 years later, by this time he's an old man, and he's you know, visiting the scenes of his youth, and he comes into town and here's his building, and it's got a composition roof on it. And he just threw a fit. And he says, I was in the lumber and shake business for years, and I built that beautiful building, and I sold it to this guy, and it had this nice shake roof on it. What does he do? He puts a blankety blank composition roof on my building, and you know. So I told L.T. Jr. that story. I says, this is what my father-in-law told me. He was at Mineral at the time and swears that this happened. That if he didn't hear it, he heard it secondhand because it took place while he was the agent there.
Yeah, yeah.
What do you think? And L.T. Murray Jr. says, well, I'm not saying it's not true. It could have happened, but he says, I don't think so. He says, I think I would have heard about something like that. I think the old man would
have talked to me about it too.
Yeah, complained to me, but he says, hey, that's a hell of a good story. Never let the truth get in the way of a good story, Dave.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.